Hello, my name is Randy Shaw. I'm the building superintendent for the City of Hanford. Um, I was born in Hanford, and I was privileged to be a part of this 100th anniversary celebration for the Civic. I want to thank some specific people that have helped put this on in the displays section of our committee, and that was Jack Schwartz from the Carnegie Museum, a couple of my employees, Chris Hillhouse and Randy Green. They had to be in my place when I couldn't be there to help with setup. And of course, myself, which was just a pleasure more than work, putting together all the pictures, doing the Photoshop work and getting them enlarged, and everything, working with Jack and the guys to make this thing a success. So I just want to welcome you to the celebration for the 100th anniversary of the Civic, and I hope you enjoy what you see here. So welcoming people to the celebration in the lobby were a few posters. We showed the ones welcoming to the celebration, as well as some advertisements that we enlarged to put on display. And this set of chairs is one of three pairs that we still have. They're the original chairs that were ordered for the Civic Auditorium, and that's what's in the description there. It states what we paid, what the city paid for them, and the different configurations. They actually had that information in an old newspaper article, so I blew that up to put on display. The spotlight, that was the original Civic spotlight. This company tended to make a lot of carbon arc spotlights, but this one was not a carbon arc. It was just 120 volt spotlight, and but the company was really famous at the time for making spotlights and other interesting light equipment for stages and entertainment. So we included an advertisement for the company there on the wall, and then the description of the era of that spotlight and the significance of it. And then further to the right, we've got one of the original theater style chairs that were taken out 2010, I believe, during our remodel. They wanted a different type of seating that could be reconfigured for different purposes in the council chambers, so we removed those, but we still, believe it or not, we still have them all stored away. Not sure why, but I thought it was cool to display it. All right, so the dimming panel, or mechanical dimmers that ran the dim lights for the Civic's stage lighting, that was original, and it was, I don't know what year it stopped being used, but I think it was around the early 90s. And I've known a couple people that said they operated the thing, but I thought it was really kind of a steampunk looking kind of item to put on display. We saved it for that reason. I always wanted to have it on display, so this was the perfect event to do that. And the pictures, of course, they're just fantastic. We have I found some pictures in what I'll call the archives of the city, kind of lost and forgotten, like the one for the groundbreaking of the Fox Theater in 1929. Shows the Civic Auditorium in the back there. There was the dolls there, the gals holding the dolls. There was 200 girls showed up for this contest, and they had that for at least a couple years. And then you got some employees in the original City Hall. You got the Civic Auditorium back when John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And one I took myself was the picture in the attic of the Civic. I thought people would be fascinated to see the structure up there that most people don't get to see. And this was kind of a one-time event where we had the roof removed, was getting it replaced in time for this celebration. So it gave it awesome lighting to show that. Then there's the artist rendition that it never came to be in that particular configuration, but that was a conceptual design that they, and for the most part, it came out that way. There's a few embellishments that they didn't do. And then the flyer is a handout for, I think, for visitors to see what attractions are in Hanford. And of course, the Civic was the prime example of what to see when you come to Hanford. That bicycle was really cool. The fact that we have a picture of it and a description, how much it cost them and so on, being in the homecoming parade, which used to be a great big event for Hanford. So the Kiwanis had entries probably for a period of years where they'd all have these bicycles and go on the parade. So that's cool when you can have an artifact and have a picture showing it in the picture. Felt that was a good artifact to be able to show. So this section we called the Decades display, and it shows the from the point that it was completed until 1970s, I believe. So each one was a different decade, and fortunately for Michael Semas, he had postcards of images of the Civic for those periods in time, except for one, which I found a separate picture of. But we were able to cover the decades, and of course that picture of the council members in 1927, I believe, on the steps of the original City Hall, which is the East Wing, or many people know as the Teen Center. I know it looks totally different, but that's the original doors and stairs. Later on, they put two sets of stairs on either side of that and put the city sign and address number on that wall, which is how you see it today. But several members of the decision makers for the Civic are in that picture, and I think that's a really good display of the historic significance there of the structure. Then, of course, just the pictures themselves as the decades go, I think is interesting. Of course, Eleanor Roosevelt, the fact that she came to Hanford and actually drove from the LA area to the valley. She described in her memoirs about the fields of flowers and such. I thought that was neat, but the fact that she was there, that was really significant. And you got a time of simpler times showing a group of kids there in the Civic. It was a yo-yo contest, and you could go on to win prizes. They had a competition in Fresno, and I think they had a national competition. Not sure how far they went there, but we had some skilled yo-yo folks. Glenda Mae Drennan, which I mentioned earlier, is in the bottom right picture. They're having a meeting there in what is now the council chambers. That space was used for several different things, and originally it wasn't walled off, so it was much larger. What is now the foyer was actually part of the main space for the council chamber, and so it was multi-purpose. Then, of course, you see some of the council members from another era next to her, and we just tried to put the chronological order of some of the miscellaneous photos with the decades of the buildings to kind of tie it together. And of course, that awesome picture in the bottom, the Carnegie Museum provided us to display that, of Young Buddhist Association, a meeting from several areas there at the Civic Auditorium with that awesome wide-angle shot, probably from a large view camera. I love black and white photography as it is, so that really stands out, and we appreciate that the Carnegie let us borrow that for the display. And of course, you can't forget the picture up on top was, you've heard of Melco dances, and they pushed doing Melco dances for the last several years. I never knew what that meant, what it was about. Well, you can see there Melvin Semas, it was about him. He had a company called Melco, and he basically promoted dances. He had a lot of time running fairs, and a really smart guy and talented, and a lot of people looked forward to his dances in Lemoore and in Hanford during those days. So people of that era know exactly what you're talking about when you say Melco dances. So even though I was born here, I was a little bit late to understand what that was about. And so I felt it was really important to have him on display and explain what Melco was about so that we know. So that I thought that was really cool to be able to find that information on him. So these items are the contracts for the construction of the Civic Auditorium, and I thought it was fascinating actually that we still had those. They were kept with a ledger, original city ledger from back in those days, and it was salvaged from storage. At one point, all of these records from when the City Hall was in the Civic Auditorium, they were stored in a basement storage area. Well, one year it flooded in there from a pipe leak, and fortunately these items were saved by a previous employee and had been stored away in our maintenance shop for several years. And I remember they were in a drawer and pulled them out, and I thought people would be interested to see, the names, the contractors, the companies, the legal agreements. Very interesting. And we opened to a page of the city records there of the day-to-day receipts. Also included in there, when you went on a tour of the Dallas Temple, they would hand out these, I guess they had lots and lots of these copies of, they were gaming sheets for gambling back in the day. The Chinese loved to gamble, and they did a lot of that as for entertainment. And this was kind of a relic of that kind of thing. They just stamped a piece of paper and they used it maybe like a bingo or something. I'm not sure. But that was also included in here, so we have a few copies of that. The lottery tickets were inside the ledger amongst the contracts, so we decided to just display them with everything else, and that's very significant, important for the time as well. A real important display was of the performers that were in the Civic Auditorium. Benny Goodman, a very well-known band leader and clarinet player. You had Stan Kenton, Harry James. These guys were big in the world of music in those days, and to have them come into Hanford was highly significant. And it was very interesting reading about the backgrounds of these people, because even I don't know firsthand many of them what music they played, but after researching it, I thought these guys were big in the day, and to have them here was pretty amazing. So one of the reasons why we had such top performers is our location within the Army base in Lemoore. That was a big draw, and also their location, our Hanford's location, that we're kind of centrally located between two big metropolitan areas. So it was a good stop for them. And one very significant, which we highlighted in all the entertainers, was John Philip Sousa, and he was a major influence in the patriotic music for the United States, and the fact that he was here at least 3 occasions, and one of them was here in the Civic Auditorium. And it was so cool to hear some of the music that he conducted being played again by the John Philip Sousa tribute band. And it was more like a great big orchestra filled the stage. It was a highlight of the celebration. and I know everybody appreciated that. It sounded great, and I think everybody had a good time, not only the people listening to it, but the people playing it. So that was just a neat addition for this that helped round out the attraction of this celebration. Part of the fire history display we're showing there on the right was the original bell that was in the second floor of the fire station on Lacey Boulevard, and it would ring different patterns and tell you what area the fire alarm is. So for an example, one ring was the Caminal or Beacon refinery, and I don't know what the other ones were. They could tell you, but I thought that was pretty neat. The pool station. So before we had 911, if you saw a fire, you'd find one of these pool stations in downtown and pull it, and that would go directly to the fire station, and that would alert them to that area you're in and respond. And to the left, the little picture shows when they retrofitted those boxes onto their own pedestal one year. So I guess the city thought they need to get a picture of that. But it used to be mounted just on a regular telephone pole. I do remember those. I think they removed those in the late 80s. And then the lanterns to the left. So those first two were of the truly first fire engine, if you want to call it an engine, kind of a wagon pulled by a team of horses. And those were from that era in the 1800s. And then to the left of that, the red colored kerosene lamp, there's a pair of those, and that was on the rear of the 1911 Seagrave fire engine. And those were donated by a previous employee who's now retired, and her uncle was one of the fire chiefs. Another one of the displays during the celebration was of the police department and fire department. What many people may not realize is that both of those departments were in the same building on Doughty Street in the old fire station that is now Samurai Sushi, I believe. Pat's Automotive in the past, different businesses in there, but they were all together. So we felt important to have them represented also. And of course the police department was located in the basement of the Civic Auditorium from the late 50s until 1976, when they built the current police station. And so you can see we got some pictures there, the really old pictures of the first fireman for Hanford was from the Kings County Museum. We appreciate their contribution. And then actually some archive pictures of a couple gals there in one was a dispatch and one was the reception for the police department. And I remember going down there as a young kid getting my bike license, which was I know it's kind of foreign to people today, but yes, they did bicycle licenses, and I guess it was just to help track in case you had it stolen or lost, they could ID it. But you gotta remember back then, a lot more people rode bikes as a form of transportation. And of course the kids did as well, but it was a much bigger deal. It was kind of like owning a car, very personal item. Then of course the other pictures to the right of that is showing the Central Middle School, which was where the Civic now stands. And we again found some great pictures from Michael Semas. And what's significant also is it shows the clock tower. It was a three-faced clock tower that contained this Civic Auditorium's clock. That's an 1886 Seth Thomas clock. The mechanism, there's another picture showing of the actual mechanism that's in the attic, but the bell was saved and in the original design of the Civic Auditorium to be operational. And so it does, it rings on the hour based on what time it is on the clock. And we have to hand wind that twice a week to keep it running. It's not on a motor or anything. It's has these large weights that go down in the corners of the building, and the weight applies the power to run the clock. Here's some more contents in the display case showing the original captain's, fire captain's cap and fire chief's. And you can see from the different years, there's an all leather hat, an aluminum one, and a fabric one. And then there's the neat pictures of the 1911 fire truck. It was not the first fire truck. The first one was actually horse-drawn, and we don't have a picture of that, but we do have the lanterns that was on that one in another picture. Here's the police history display, and I thank the police department for providing these artifacts. The picture I found actually amongst photos that the city already had, and I had scanned those years ago, and felt that was neat to show them when they occupied the basement of the Civic Auditorium. And there's a horse-mounted officer in front of the Civic, and there's one of the what I call the bobby hats. It was part of the uniform of the first uniform for police department in the city of Hanford. And there was a program in the 80s where a few of the officers would dress up in the timely uniforms and had a foot beat. And I remember that in the 80s. It was great to see them downtown. And then you see some of the various badges through the years. And you see there at 1 year, all the officers got those hard helmets. And there's a picture that was included in a binder showing they were all proudly wearing their helmets in front of the Civic Auditorium. So we wanted to show the council members that were the decision makers when they decided to approve the concept and then eventually the construction of the Civic Auditorium. And the city had a large volume of pictures of the past council members and mayors, and they used to be on display in the back wall of the council chambers, and at one point they got removed, but we had them all digitized, and you can see those during council meetings on a TV monitor in the foyer of the council chambers. But these we picked out ones of the year range that these decisions were made for the Civic before it was built, and thought it would be interesting for people to see what they looked like, the decision makers then. So 1 year shortly after I got hired by the city, I was digging through some files. We have a storage area in our basement shop, which is the maintenance shop is where the police department used to be, in the basement, and there's a storeroom where all the old plans from the building department were kept, and we also stored a few other things in there. So I kind of was just snooping around, and I found this bag of original Civic plans just kind of sitting loose in there, almost like they were going to be discarded. And so I pulled them out of there and tried to figure out a way that we could salvage them and put them on display, and to be able to scan them to put them in a digital file. So I found a product called Biva, which is heat activated film, and it allows you to place your items on this film and then heat it like with an iron or a heat gun. So it allows you to move it around, and then when you've got it good, you can heat it up, and then it holds all the pieces together. Literally, there were chunks of pieces loose tearing from these plans. So by doing that, I was able to save it and also run it through a sheet scanner. The city, of course, has scanners for that in the engineering department, and so one of our engineers ran that through the scanner for us. And these are, of course, the original blueprints. They did a reverse on the digital form, so it's actually black on white and actually shows better detail. But I felt it was important to show these original blueprints. It's a work of art. And Coates and Traver was the architects, and they also designed the old Hanford High School. And so you can see many of the design elements in the Civic, which were in the old high school structure. And so that's very significant. And I think it's just a piece of art that should be kept for generations. Back in those days, there were no computers, so this was all hand drawn. And you'll see the cornice details, the structure details. And so an architect had to be not only good at drawing mechanical things, but also kind of artistic with drawing details of all the accoutrements of the exterior of the building. And so these here, you can see this. We don't have every page in this display. There were too many to show, but we had, I think it was 6 or 7 pages of the most, I think, fascinating images and best quality of the blueprints. But this one in particular, showing the front of the Civic, all the detail work in the windows, the columns, what I call the medallions up at the top. And those also repeat inside the main ballroom of the Civic Auditorium. You can see these medallions there. I'm not sure what the significance of the detail is, but it just shows the grandeur of this building. It's pretty amazing to have this in a little town of 5,000 to 7,000 people, that they had this awesome building built there. So it's definitely stood up to the test of time, and is still loved, appreciated, and used throughout the year. We thought the newspapers were so interesting as part of the contents of the time capsules, and we wanted to display them. We also wanted people to be able to touch and pick up the different pages. So I had them duplicated. I took high resolution pictures of the different pages, and then we had them reprinted. The front pages, I had the largest prints, and then the other pages that just show the different articles and advertisements for the day. We put on those rings, and so you could flip through them and see them. And we just wanted people to be able to pick them up and touch them like a newspaper. And I think they were pretty fascinating. Just a neat addition to our artifact displays. So here we see the contents of the Civic Auditorium's time capsule. It was dedicated, the cornerstone was placed in January of 1925. And this was a really cool experience that I've never had. In fact, trying to find information on how to access and properly open a cornerstone wasn't easy, but after looking at several YouTube videos, kind of gave me an idea what to expect. And we found some amazing artifacts in there. I would say the newspapers were the most interesting to me, just because it kind of shows what life was about, the news, the things going on at the time of that year. Very interesting. You know, I read that there was a list of contents in there to know what to expect when we opened it, but until you see it, you really can't appreciate it. And the newspaper had done a special edition in a extra thick bond to be able to stand up to time. And so I think that was the Hanford Morning Journal did that, and then the Hanford Sentinel had a normal one, and they held up pretty well. And then there's, of course, the documents of all the service organizations. That was very interesting. The groups like the Elks, of course, the Masons, and there were so many organizations then compared to today. And we would like to put new lists of their members, whatever organizations are still in operation. We plan to do that when we rededicate the cornerstone, and the Masons will help us with that. We're looking around January to do that, to put those contents back in. But so it was a real thrill to be able to be there to open up the cornerstone and see how they put the time capsule in, what they made the time capsule out of, which was copper sheeting. And the company that manufactured it put their business card loose inside that time capsule. So we knew exactly who had the hand in building that. You can see that to the left. That copper container is it. Unlike what you might think is real common for a cornerstone, its contents, it actually wasn't a hole in the cornerstone. It was kind of an L shape, and then it just tucked into a little surface inside the wall. So I feel very lucky to not only get to open one time capsule, but 2 time capsules. I asked the veterans groups if they would entertain us opening their cornerstone as well, since the construction of the Veterans Building was going on at the time that the Civic was just being completed. So they are kind of tied together, as well as since the property was sold by the city, who owned the middle school, sold it to the county to build the Veterans Building. And they all agreed, yes, they'd like that. So we had a couple of their representatives with us while we opened that time capsule, and we brought it inside and opened the contents, and it was really a neat experience to see them seen for the first time after 100 years these cool artifacts. And one, of course, is the newspapers. Very good condition. They looked practically like new. There was 1 or 2 papers that were the same as the ones in the Civic contents, and yet there were others like Kings County News, which I didn't know existed. And it's really interesting to see what was going on during that time. Also included in there were several coins. There were ones from the 1800s, and there's also medals that were included in the time capsule, and then just informational brochures of what was what's made in the valley, from dairy to fruit orchards, and basically showing what people are proud of in the valley of what we produce. And thought that was very interesting. It was just neat to see the reactions of the veterans, seeing the contents of their brethren, what they put in that capsule. And I didn't know at the time, or didn't remember, that there was for sure a time capsule in that cornerstone, but we had a harder time getting it out than the Civic one. And so I had recorded these operations of opening both time capsules, and we had those on display during the celebration that we had playing on a loop on 2 large TVs. And so I hope people recognize the 2 differences. You know, we did them at different times, a few weeks apart, and felt it was appropriate to give the veterans their time to thank them for their service and show that we appreciate them, and display the contents as well. So we had the display cases back to back, and I hope people appreciated that. I know the veterans did, and we'll be doing the same thing for them when it's time to put the time capsule back in. We will ask them what they would like to include, and of course we'll include everything you see here. So imagine after 200 years how cool that would be to see. So what we can include now, these digitized forms, so we can show pictures and such, because there's not a lot of room to put big items in. But one can only imagine what it looked like in another 100 years. To wrap things up, it was a privilege to get to be involved with this 100th anniversary of the Civic Auditorium. have to thank the curators and all the time and effort that was put in for the displays and researching and just personal time put in to do all this. The city shows that they appreciate the history by having the council made a decision to approve expenditures to do a lot of improvements that we've done in the last 3-4 years, and the building shows it. There's a lot of other buildings in town that are as old or older, and they have not had the maintenance necessary, so there are some buildings that are in bad shape. And any building that's left without maintenance, it eventually just starts falling apart. The Civic Auditorium is no exception, and we've done a lot to maintain it, to keep it the way it looks, and I've just been privileged to be a part of that, and I'm glad that we had a good turnout for this event. We did a lot of work and a lot of time spent for it, and I hope that people learned something about the history of Hanford by attending, not only to celebrate the building, but to celebrate the history which Hanford is known for, and the fact that the time and effort and money was spent on this building shows that it's important to the citizens to maintain the history of their town and to educate new citizens of Hanford of what is significant of the history of Hanford and what made it significant, and why the citizens wanted to spend this huge amount of public funds on a structure that they had no idea at the time how much it would get used. And they were very wise to do this. It ended up being a huge success, and still is, and it's made our town square a big part of what it is, with the Veterans Building and of course the courthouse and Bastille. It's hard to find something like this in another city, and so Hanford is a prime example of the people being proud of where they live and the history of where they live, and they want to share this with others. So it was a great feeling to see the big turnout and I think excitement of the people, hearing the music, looking at the displays, learning a little something, and of course enjoying themselves. And so it was just really a once-in-a-lifetime experience for me, and I'm glad I was able to be a part of it. And I just thank everyone involved that put their time and effort into making this a success.
In the heart of historic downtown Hanford, California, stands a century-old treasure, the Hanford Civic Auditorium. A true architectural gem, this iconic building has watched generations come and go, its timeless design echoing the spirit and pride of the community. For 100 years, it has served as a gathering place, a stage, a symbol, and a beacon of culture and beauty in the city it calls home.
The Civic Auditorium is probably the most important building in town. They spent over $200,000, and so back in those days, that's over $3 million in today's money. So you can imagine a town that had maybe 5,000 population. That's a lot of money to spend and commit to. People wanted something somewhat extravagant for their building. Since they're spending that kind of money, they wanted something to be proud of, and they got it. You know, the Hanford had a large English population in its early days, and that kind of still, the lineage of that still wanted that, the nice designs, kind of European influences on the design.
I think it was a novel approach at the time to dress up the downtown area and give it a centerpiece for activity. You look around the other communities in the valley, there's really no structure like this.
Civic wasn't just an entertainment venue, it also housed all the city offices, later on the police department, even the engineers for public works. At one time, believe it or not, all the services were here. The Civic Auditorium was part of a grand plan for this park to have a central city square. It is, but it never got completely built out because of the Depression.
The Hanford Civic Auditorium was the city's largest public investment at the time, completed in 1925, just before the Great Depression took hold. Though plans for further development around Civic Park halted by 1930, with only landmarks like the Hanford Fox Theater and Superior Dairy following, the auditorium endured, standing as a proud symbol of the city's ambition and resilience.
It became the center of the city. It's been remodeled and changed over the years, but it's still used for the same purpose, and it serves its purpose as well and looks good. And so I'm sure the city fathers would be still very happy how we're making use of it.
It's a beautiful building. When people that I know come to Hanford for the first time and I bring them downtown, they're like, what is that place? I can't really think of any other place that's like this, where this building sits out over a beautiful park, looks across, you see the original courthouse, the original jail, and it's all part of the ambiance of the place. When people come visit Hanford, they always end up taking a picture of this.
And the Civic is very well built. It has a lot of iron. When they used to use hot rivets, they've riveted those things together. It has steel throughout the building that goes all the way through down in the foundation. Very classic design principles put into the building, which obviously outlast the test of time.
The Hanford Civic Auditorium not only exemplified the advancements of modern architecture, but blended pieces of the city's history as well.
There's a clock on the front of this building. Most people don't know that that clock actually was initially installed on the grammar school that existed on this site that was demolished to build this building. And so the clock tower of the grammar school had a Seth Thomas clock. And it was wound once a week. It had a weight that would come down several stories. And when this building was constructed, they took that clock, put it into this building, and so it's still in operation today.
With its proximity to the local train station, the Civic Auditorium began to draw prominent entertainers and leaders of the time.
Many of the entertainers traveled between San Francisco and LA, and they would find a convenient stop here in Hanford. Back in the day, they had some of the top big band and jazz players come and perform there. When they had dances in the Civic, it was a packed house. It was a big deal. Eleanor Roosevelt, she was a very well-spoken First Lady. She made an appearance here and did a speech. That is something that people need to understand how significant the building was for the day.
Just the scope and the size of this building allowed for big planning for big events, and you have the population and the feet and the seats to fill it. Throughout the year, this building is always being used for something, always some event, some activity. It is a great facility to be available for the community.
It's used constantly. There's pretty much, there's a waiting list for main events for the weekends that are a year in advance. That just tells that there's a demand for it and that people enjoy it.
Today, the Hanford Civic Auditorium continues to serve as a centerpiece for the community, hosting a wide range of events, from weddings, quinceañeras, recitals, and galas to fundraisers, performances, and community gatherings. It also provides a beautiful backdrop for concerts, ceremonies, symphonies, photo shoots, and most notably, the popular Thursday night marketplace. In the last few years, the Civic has served as the center of a vibrant event that has quickly become a holiday tradition for Hanford residents and beyond, the Hanford Winter Wonderland.
That's been hugely successful, bringing so many people from out of town here. And so they have the ice rink out front, and then the backdrop, you see this beautiful building, and it adds to the ambiance of the experience. It has become a very, very popular event to come here and ice skate in Hanford in the wintertime, and people come from all over the area.
Beyond community events, the Hanford Civic Auditorium has become a sought-after location for creative productions, including music videos, portraits, reality TV, short films, and even major motion pictures. Its distinctive architecture and timeless charm make it a favorite among artists, filmmakers, and creators seeking a visually striking and memorable setting.
Trends change over time, but classic beauty does not change. People appreciate the grandeur of it, the craftsmanship of it, the details that were put into it. You automatically recognize beauty, and it has it.
I think it is the testament to the foresight of people that have long gone from this planet to see that we can build this, and I'll provide a facility for the citizens of Hanford to use and to take advantage of. I think their foresight was very well thought out, because here we are 100 years later sitting in this building, and it still has the same amount of use as it always has. It's like a jewel in the crown of the city of Hanford. There are many different architectural jewels within the city of Hanford, and I think this is probably one of the best of the jewels.
The Hanford Civic Auditorium is more than just a building. It is a living testament to the city's history, character, and enduring spirit. Its unique architecture and cultural significance have allowed it to stand the test of time, weathering an entire century of change. As both a historical landmark and a vibrant community hub, the Civic remains a cherished symbol of Hanford's past and a lasting gift for generations to come.